Leading up to the release of Jump Force, one of the worries I had about the game was its staying power. A problem modern fighting games, or not just fighting games, but a modern game problem is tackling longevity. If a company can get you to play a single game for a long period of time, that's much more valuable for them rather than a single purchase, because they can sell you downloadable content over time, which is a much cheaper cost for the consumer and a much cheaper cost for the developers to actually create. And while Jump Force is offering DLC content, it hasn't really tried to tackle that problem of longevity outside of downloadable content. Most games today choose to tackle this problem by providing content consistently and frequently over time, or alternatively, the game is competitive and it self-sustains itself because of that. And I really did think that Jump Force was going to provide that constant stream of updates and game patches. And it has done a little bit of that. For example, changing bugs, fixing bugs, allowing you to skip cutscenes, adding the Ryuk costume and bits and pieces. But apart from that, since release, we haven't really got a whole lot. I do expect to see quite a big uptick in the frequency at which we receive updates once we get into the DLC cycle, but I would be lying to you if I didn't say I was a little bit disappointed up until this point. I was hoping for a really consistent and constant string of updates. We are officially in April now, which is the first month of the listed 2019 update schedule, which does make me think this is where we're going to start seeing some of those requested updates and other goodies here and there. We already know about the clan feature, which is on the way sometime this month, along with new avatar costumes and an event called Vertex. More on that later. But it's the month after that that we get all of the juicy stuff. Our 3 DLC characters, a raid boss event, who knows what that is, and a new stage. And then, in June and July, we have events and costumes, which is awesome. I really don't want to downplay how cool it is that we'll be getting additional content even during the months without downloadable characters. But I can't help but feel like the audience, us as consumers, would have been more engaged with the game for a longer period of time if instead of getting these 3 characters in May, we got Kaiba, then the next character in June, and then the next character in July, and then so on. On the other hand, I'm not a marketing major, so I don't know why they did this. It's possible they have internal marketing numbers that suggest the time in between each DLC won't affect them too much, or at least not as negatively as you might initially assume. It's also possible I was right about story mode / mission content coming with each DLC release, which would explain why they have such a big gap of time in between each release. If that story content and mission content overlap with each other, for example, the Kaiba story might lead into the All Might story or something like that, if that's the case, you would need all 3 of the DLC characters in that single pack to be able to tell that story. It gives them time to be able to complete the potential DLC story / mission content before the release of each DLC character. That's my current theory as to why we're getting such a big gap in between each character and why we're getting packs instead of individual characters. But aside from that, I'm curious about these events. I do wonder how big each of these events are going to be. Are they going to come with additional cosmetics? Will they contain additional missions? What else will be in these things? Some people have looked at the tournament event and they think that there's a tournament mode coming to the game. I don't think that's the case because it says it's a tournament event, not like a tournament update. I think it's just the name of the event. Honestly, I have no idea what these quote-unquote events are going to be, and Spike Chunsoft hasn't been particularly open with us about the details. But I do have to appreciate them giving us this rough update schedule. It does feel like they're making a good faith effort to be as open as possible to us, the consumers, which I do think is a good thing. But I feel like the current stream of content that's making its way into the game just is not consistent enough, and it certainly isn't frequent enough. But my opinion on this could do a complete 180 after this month, because it is the first month listed on the 2019 update schedule, and thanks to this month, and then obviously the next couple months, we're going to have a much better idea of what these gaps in between each DLC month is going to be like. What type of content is going to be added to the game? What are these events like? These are questions that will be answered in the coming months, and I'm excited to see what the answers to these questions are. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I know it wasn't a particularly long one. I did just want to lay out some of my thoughts on the update schedule in a single video. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the current stream of content coming into the game of Jump Force. What would you change about it? Obviously, you can't just add in content. You have to kind of shuffle it around because they can't just create content out of thin air. How would you adjust this release schedule? Again, I personally think it would have been better to space out characters, but I do think they're going to be doing story content for these DLC characters, so that wouldn't necessarily work out that way if you wanted to space out characters. So yeah, I really just don't know. It's really hard to tell what the plan is for the future of Jump Force, specifically when it comes to why they're doing certain things on this update schedule. So a lot of it is just wait and see. If you're new around here, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to keep up to date with content like this. Leave a like on the video, it does help other people find it. My name has been BILBZY, and I'll see you in the next video.